Today, we are diving into the absolutely incredible story of a philosopher who decided to take on an entire tradition. And he didn't do it with weapons, but with words, with his wits, and a pretty brilliant disguise. This is the story of Vasubandhu, and it's about how a masterpiece of scholarship became a weapon of intellectual rebellion.
I mean, think about that. How do you even begin to do something like that? For most people, it's just unthinkable. But for one of the greatest minds in Buddhist history, it became his life's mission. And it was a mission that forced him to go undercover, right into the very heart of the establishment he was about to question.
His journey is, well, it's a masterclass in intellectual courage. It's a story of doubt, discovery, and a massive transformation that would end up shaping philosophy for centuries to come. So let's start where he did, in a land that was a crossroads of empires and ideas.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off almost 1,700 years ago, in this really vibrant hub of culture and learning.
Vasubandhu was basically born into intellectual royalty. We're in a place called Purusapora, which is modern-day Peshawar, around the year 316. His family, they were Brahmanas. His dad was a court priest, totally steeped in the Vedic scriptures. And get this, his older brother, Asaṅga, was also destined to become this other massive figure in Buddhist thought. You could say scholarship was just in his blood.
So he starts out with his family's tradition, mastering Brāhmaṇical logic. But his mind is just so sharp, and he's drawn to this buzzing world of Buddhist thought all around him in Gandhara. So he joins the Sarvāstivādans. They were the most powerful Buddhist school in the whole region, and he immediately starts impressing everybody. But even as this star student, something's not sitting right. He's starting to have questions.
And this is where things get really interesting. This is where Vasubandhu goes from being just a student to a full-blown challenger. Because, it's one thing to learn a doctrine, it's something else entirely to start picking it apart from the inside.
Okay, so at the heart of this whole debate was a pretty simple question. Is anything permanent? His teachers, the powerful Vaibhāṣikas, they said yes, certain things have a real, enduring essence. But then there was this rival school, the Sautrāntikas, and they argued, nope, nothing lasts. Everything is momentary, just a fleeting series of causes and effects. And this radical idea, it really clicked with Vasubandhu, and his doubts about the official story just started to grow and grow.
So what does a guy like this do? He doesn't just sit around and wonder. He decides to go straight to the source. He travels to Kashmir, the absolute fortress of Vaibhāṣika philosophy, to confront their greatest masters and see for himself if their ideas could really hold up.
But he doesn't just walk in the front door. Oh no, he goes undercover. One account says he actually disguised himself as a madman, a lunatic, which allowed everyone to underestimate him. It let him listen in, absorb everything, all without revealing his true purpose. For 4 years, he studied their most secret doctrines, all while playing the part of a fool. It's incredible.
After his secret mission in Kashmir, he heads back home, and now he's ready to make his move. He starts writing what would become his most famous and his most controversial work. He writes this absolutely brilliant 600-stanza poem, the Abhidharmakośa. It's this just stunningly clear summary of the entire Vaibhāṣika system he had just secretly mastered. He sends it to his old teachers in Kashmir, and they are blown away. They think it's pure genius. But they missed one tiny, crucial detail.
See, hidden all through the verses, Vasubandhu had planted this really subtle but totally devastating little qualifier. Whenever he was explaining one of their core beliefs, he'd often add a little phrase like, "so they say." It was this tiny signal of his disagreement, a quiet way of saying, hey, this is their view, not necessarily the truth.
His teachers are intrigued, so they ask him for an explanation. And that is when he drops the bombshell. He writes a prose commentary on his own poem, and this time there's no disguise. He just openly attacks the core beliefs of the Vaibhāṣika school from the perspective he now believed in. It was a brilliant strategy. First, prove you understand their system better than they do, and only then take it apart, piece by piece.
So Vasubandhu becomes a philosophical superstar, this famous critic, but his greatest intellectual challenge was actually yet to come, and it would come from inside his own family.
While Vasubandhu was busy critiquing all the old schools, his brother Asaṅga was pioneering a whole new movement, Mahāyāna Buddhism. And this wasn't just about your own personal liberation, it was about the Bodhisattva path, this radical goal of achieving enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings.
And Vasubandhu, he wanted nothing to do with it. As this rigorous logician,
This critic, he looked at his brother's expansive Mahāyāna works and just dismissed them. He thought they were just elaborate fictions, not the true words of the Buddha. But his brother Asaṅga was patient. He came up with a plan to win over the brilliant critic. First, he sends a disciple to recite a text that he knows will appeal to Vasubandhu's intellect, showing him how philosophically sophisticated Mahāyāna could be. And okay, he's intrigued. Then another disciple comes and recites a different text, this one outlining the step-by-step path of the Bodhisattva. This convinces him it's a real spiritual discipline. And the realization just hits him so hard, he's overcome with regret and says he wants to cut out his own tongue for criticizing it. But Asaṅga tells him no. Use that same brilliant tongue to now champion the truth you found.
And so began the final and maybe the most influential part of his life. The ultimate critic had now become the ultimate advocate.
Vasubandhu's transformation was just total. He moves to Ayodhya, a capital of the great Gupta Empire, where he's no longer an outsider but a celebrated master. He wrote dozens of influential Mahāyāna texts and was even appointed personal tutor to the crown prince. The man who once disguised himself as a madman to learn secrets was now shaping the future of an empire during its golden age.
When you lay it all out like this, you can really see the incredible sweep of his 80-year journey, from a student in Gandhara to a spy in Kashmir, all the way to a royal tutor in Ayodhya. It was a life defined by this relentless search for truth, and two massive transformations, each one changing the course of Buddhist philosophy forever.
Vasubandhu's story really leaves us with a powerful question, doesn't it? He had the intellectual honesty to doubt his teachers, the courage to challenge an entire establishment, and, rarest of all, the humility to realize his own brilliant critiques were themselves mistaken, and then to dedicate the whole second half of his life to the very ideas he once attacked. It's a real testament to a mind that was truly dedicated not to being right, but to finding the truth.